So whenever we bought this tractor, it was about 1,500 bucks, and we didn't really know what we were looking for, so we just took a shot and bought this thing. And now that we've been using this for a couple of years now, we definitely know a lot more of what you need and what you would want in a tractor whenever you're looking to buy one. So worst case scenario, this tractor is about 6,000 pounds and scrap value is about $600 to $700. So that's the worst case scenario. So there's a lot of things you need to check before you even start up the tractor, and I'll show you some of those now. So before you start it, you want to check your hydraulic hoses because they're a pretty normal thing to go bad. So you want to make sure they're in good condition because whenever they pop, it really slows your progress down because you have to replace them. Whenever we bought this tractor, most of these hoses were bad, so after a couple of them blowing on us, we just replaced all of the hoses. So if you get this hose custom made for your tractor, it'll probably be about a $60 hose, but if you just use standard fittings, it'll actually be more like a $15 hose, which is a lot better. So we replaced all of the hoses with standard fittings, and that saved a lot of money. So if you can, make sure to ask the guy that you're buying the tractor from not to start the tractor before you get there, because engines start easier whenever they're warm, but you want a cold start so you can tell if there's something wrong. You can actually just put your hand on the engine to feel if it's been started. Make sure to check under the tractor thoroughly to make sure that there's no drips. So if there are some drips, there's definitely additional repairs you have to do, and I'll show you those. So if your brake pedal shaft seal does go bad, you have to replace the seal, and it's all the way at the bottom of the differential, so all of your fluid will drain out, and we've had that happen before. So we actually just replaced this seal, and it's really nice not having fluid leak out. So right here under the transmission, there is a very small hairline crack, and that's because the plug is a little bit too big. It's the wrong plug, so it's a very small leak, but it's manageable, and probably sometime we'll end up fixing that. So the hydraulic system is really tight, and I'll explain some of the ways that you can check that. So here's the dipstick. I'll pull it out and make sure it has the proper fluid level, and it's kind of hard to see, but it is at a good level. So if you lift your bucket up overnight and you just leave it in the air, it should be in the exact same spot that it is whenever you left it. If it drifts down, then you know you have a leak. If your battery is in bad shape or it's too small, then you'll have to constantly be charging it to even get your tractor started. So this uses a really large tractor battery. Whenever we first got the tractor, it had just a normal car battery. And man, is it nice to have an actual tractor battery, but it's about $130. So if you lift off the radiator cap, you should see fluid right on top. If you've got a leak in the radiator, hopefully your engine hasn't been overheated yet. So you want to make sure, since this is a diesel, it doesn't have any diesel fuel leaks, and if it does, the tractor will start, and then in about 10 minutes it'll stall. Check under the fuel tank to make sure there's nothing dripping. And this one is really important. You want to check your dipstick and make sure that there's oil on the dipstick, because if there isn't, it could have been running without oil. So you want to check your power steering pump fluid, and you'll definitely be able to tell if there's any leaks because it'll be wet around here, and you'll feel it whenever you're trying to move the wheels. So right under this cover is the air filter right in there, and you just want to make sure there actually is an air filter in there. So make sure to check the tires to make sure they're in good shape and that they're rated for the amount of weight that's going to be put on these. You don't want to use regular car tires because they could pop, and we've actually had tires pop and then we cracked the rim and it wasn't fun. So make sure your tires are in good shape, because they're very expensive and hard to replace. Whenever we got this one, it definitely needed replaced. So we got a new tire on Craigslist for about $160, and it's really hard to take the wheel on and off, so that's pretty important. So this one was in good shape whenever we bought the tractor, but as you can see, after all the years of using it, it definitely needs replaced now, so this is about as far as you can take a tire before replacing it. So make sure whenever you push down the brakes, you feel the brake. It doesn't just bottom right out, and if it does, you want to make sure that you have adjustment left on this rod. It's right under the floor pan that you can adjust the brakes. So if your brakes do need adjusted, you can just move the thing up the threads and that'll give you a little more braking power. So what you want to do is just stick your finger into this rubber seal and make sure that there's no holes in it, or else your fluid will leak out. You might be wondering what this washer is. What it actually does is it keeps debris from punching up in and then breaking the rubber seal. So you might notice the bucket on the exhaust pipe, and what that does is it keeps water from going right into there and into the oil. You can tell this muffler is in pretty bad shape, but it still works. So you want to make sure that you have a cap over your diesel fuel, because after about 10 minutes with water and the diesel fuel, your tractor will lose all power. So this hose here is the diesel return hose. And if you watch it while it's running, and if you see any air bubbles going through the hose, you know that there's air in the system and you need to purge out the air. So if there is air in the system, it could be that some of these hoses are loose, and it might just be that you need to tighten up a bolt. So you might have to do a smoke test or a pressure test, or it could be that you just ran out of diesel fuel and that brought air into the system. So if there is air in the system, you'll know, because in about 10 minutes you'll lose all kinds of power and pressure, so you don't want that to happen. So if you're really considering buying the tractors, you want to check the fluid level. Here's the sight plug for the transmission, and what you do is take out the sight plug, and the level of the fluid should be around where the hole is, and then here's the sight plug for the differential. So most old tractors just start with a screwdriver, and whenever you're starting a diesel, it should start up pretty fast and easy. So most old tractors just start with a screwdriver, and whenever a diesel is starting, it should start right up, and if it doesn't, that could be because somebody put gas in the engine or there's air in the system. Whenever you are getting the tractor, make sure you start it for more than 10 minutes to make sure there's no fuel problems, and make sure it goes forward and backwards and all the functions work. So make sure to extend the chrome cylinders, the hydraulics, to see if they're pitted. And if they aren't pitted, make sure every time you use it to bring them all the way back in so they're not exposed to the elements and will rust. And whenever you park the tractor, Make sure the scoop is sitting firmly on the ground so the tractor won't roll. So there's a few tips that you can look for whenever you're tractor buying, and I kind of wish we knew these before we bought this tractor, but it has been kind of a fun experience and we've learned a lot. So I hope this video is useful. If it was, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.